Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the shop and my wonderful little channel here. Appreciate you guys joining in and following along here. Now, I know I told you last time I made an injection pump video that it was going to be the last kind of injection pump video I was going to make. I was kind of like done with them. I'd done it all, and that's not true. I lied. I'm sorry. Really didn't mean to. But I just want to help you guys. So I've got another injection pump on the bench today. And I want to show you a few things that I've not covered before, at least not in any great detail. So, let me show you what we've got. We've got a pump here that belongs to a friend of mine. It's been sitting here for a few months. I told him I'd get to it eventually, change the hydraulic head O-rings for him and you know, the boost pump seal. So, when you're inspecting a pump when you first get it, generally the first thing I'll do is I'll pull the stop cover off. And if you can see here, pulled all the way to the back like that, it's stuck in the shut-off position. And it is stuck solid. You can't move it with your finger. So this would never start this way. The other thing you want to look for when you first approach a good takeoff pump or an engine you're going to take a pump off of that's already been pulled out of a truck, you want to look right here where the throttle lever connects. Because as in this case, many times when engines are pulled, people will forget to disconnect the throttle linkage, or they will disconnect it, and when they're pulling it out, the throttle lever will get caught on something and it breaks off. You can see that it's gone. And I've got another example here. This one was almost broken off. As you can see here, the splines are twisted, and when it twisted the splines, it cracked the cam as well. So I thought I was going to put this on there to replace that assembly until I got to cleaning this off and inspecting it and found that. So this is no good. I mean, there's parts here that are still usable and good, but the shaft and the cam are not. So that sucks. But I've got one more over there somewhere in that box, or actually on that pump half behind it. I think I have a good one. So I got to replace this. Also, you want to look at your main fuel screw setting to tell if it's been tampered with. Okay, now usually they'll have like a sheet metal cover that covers it, and you can't see that. If it's gone, and or it does not have safety wire and the lead seal on it that looks like that, the fuel has been adjusted. Now that's not necessarily a really bad thing. If you're buying an engine, that may be something to be skeptical of. But if you're just buying the pump, I mean, you can't hurt the pump by turning the fuel up too much. You can burn the motor up though. So this one, I've already readjusted it. It was almost, or it was all the way out, way too high, which is probably why this is a takeoff pump and not a whole engine. The other thing to look for is your safety wire here. You see there's not quite enough twists on this. See how there's more up here than here? This has been off before. And this pump does not have any rebuild tags on it, which means either somebody has had to pull this head off to replace the button and keeper or something in the past. And I know he's had this sitting on a shelf for like 10 years, so I don't know the history of it before that. I don't know where he got it. And I just actually finished bypassing the fuel density compensator. It wasn't like that. That's why there's fresh sealant on that elbow there. Yeah, so want to make sure that your fuel inlet and outlet fittings are not broken off in the casting, and make sure your gear doesn't have any messed up teeth on it. Then, if you're needing to replace this, I kind of want to show you what that involves. Okay, now you've got to pull the sheet metal cover off, which we will get to in a few minutes, but what's inside here, that scares a lot of people. There's a lot of linkages and springs and stuff in there, but let me show you just kind of what it is with this. Now, This is the torn down version. So what you have is this kind of thing in there. And this right here, this center pin fits in that hole, and this fork fits over this end piece. And if you turn it up and look from the top, you can let me see if I can provide some other light, if I can find my flashlight. It's in one of these pockets, I thought. I probably lost it again. Oh no, there it is. Okay, so that's what you've got. Now this is your fuel rack, I guess is what you would refer to it as in this pump. And it pivots on that U-shaped plate that the throttle lever moves. You kind of give you another angle. So when you put your, it's upside down. When you put your thing in there, you got to get it lined up two ways, and this is not easy at all this way, but see what I'm getting at there? I'm not going to be able to do this and film it with one hand. Normally when it's sitting on the bench, it'll be, you can get that to face straight up, and it's not a struggle to get it aligned. Let's see if I can get it to do anything helpful. No, of course not. So, see how that works there. So I guess what I'm getting at here is you can replace this whole assembly without removing the pump from the truck or taking the whole pump apart. All you got to do is take the FDC off the top, so you can look down in it, and honestly, this is much easier and you're just doing it than when you're trying to film it and explain it. You see how the assembly comes in there? And if you can't get it to quite made up, you can just go down in there with a screwdriver and manipulate it. You're not going to hurt anything as long as you don't try bending anything with said screwdriver. So let's see if we can just get this kind of yeah, see it's not letting me push the thing in there and seat it because it's not aligned. Anyway, you get the idea. It's also easier when it's all together, because when you've got all the parts in there, your rack doesn't flail around like that. So it's actually pretty easy. And the anchor point on the other side, on the inside there, sometimes that'll want to come off when you pull the linkage out. Once again, it's not hard to just grab the rack and pull it up and align it and put it back on the pin, the pivot pin, with a screwdriver. So this can be replaced. And I'm going to see if I can show you. Can't guarantee it. This may end up being kind of one of those shit videos, you know. But let me see what I can do about getting you a good angle to watch from, where I'm also not going to have my elbow in the way the whole time, because that would be kind of pointless, right? That's empty. Okay, so before we pull it off, kind of want to clean all this crap off, right? Let's hose her down. And it's not going to be totally clean, but you know, I've tried to tell people before, this yes, this is an injection pump. You really don't want to get a lot of debris inside of it, or any. If you, oh, look at the brown recluse. Yep, awesome. That's one thing you always have to watch out for in this shop, is everything has a brown recluse spider in it or under it. I found like 6 of them today, the same size. And I didn't even know he was on here, on this one. So, I'm lucky so far. I've never been bit by one, but unfortunately it's probably only a matter of time. It's just the nature of this area. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. It's best if you don't get any debris in the pump, yes. But, I mean, a little bit of stuff that you're not going to be able to help anyway. If you don't work in an injection pump shop with a clean room, you're not going to hurt this pump. It's an old, large tolerance pump, more like a tractor pump. And the only place it was really going to mess you up if you get some debris is in the hydraulic head plunger and bore itself. You don't want debris in there. But the rest of this, I mean, it's like, this pump is built like the AK-47 of injection pumps. It's kind of just junky enough that it's hard to make it not work. I'm sure that'll offend someone, but I don't care. So this is your idle screw. I'm going to break the jam nut loose and then remove it. Don't do any more than you have to as far as loosening the nut off, because then you'll have to completely reset it from scratch. If you just break it loose, then when you're going back together with it, you can run it back down until the nut touches and then tighten it. That's the way to do that. So then we will make sure our safety wire is off. And we've got a 3/8 nut here, or well, 3/8 bolt. Take that off. And then you got a bunch more garbage. So slide it back out here. It was just sweet, nasty, oily. Anyway, see how the throttle shaft is snapped off flush there? Yeah, that's shitty. It sucks. So let's turn it back up now that all that stuff is softened. That's good enough. FCC really doesn't matter at this point, so we can get that out of the way. Now you've got your high idle screw. Well, that's your low idle screw, isn't it? Nah, I don't remember. I'd have to look back in the TM and see which is which. But this is your main idling screw at most of the time. This is the one that controls it when it's trying to like cold idle. I think. It has been years since I read through the TM on this thing. Anyway, it's not really that important. The thing is, as long as you approach it the same way I told you to do the main idle screw, where you just break the nut loose and then unscrew it, then you're going to be real close to where it's supposed to be anyway when you put it back together. So it's not super important what the proper name for it is. So this one is not still 7/16. So the only reason you got to break this loose and take it out is because you cannot get this top right screw out otherwise. So you have to. So we're going to just break it loose enough where it will turn, and then back it out with flathead screwdriver. Now the funny thing is, it also sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. The nut hits the flathead screw under here and it messes up your setting anyway, because then the screw just comes out of the nut. There is plenty of information in the technical manual on proper procedures for setting the high and low idle and no load idle speed and all that stuff. So that might be what this screw is. I can't really remember. I think it might be. Screw it. Yeah, that's the high idle. This is going to set your maximum RPM. So the farther you back this screw out, the higher your engine will rev with you know, at its maximum. So I have seen these without this screw entirely before. You can take it out and run it and throw it away, but be aware that it's entirely up to your foot to control what the engine does at that point. So if it blows up, then it's definitely all on you. But, you know, I mean, you can over rev them anyway, even at factory settings, and blow them up. So let's take our safety wire off. Of course, autofocus is being worthless. I can see that, and I'm sorry, but I don't know what I can really do about it. Ah, shit. All right. I might as well take the rest of the safety wire off while it's easy to pull it out of there, huh? Really? You should have broken by now. There we go. All right. I think it's starting to rain. tried to strip out. It did half a turn, but the bigger screwdriver was able to get it. These all have a copper washer on them to help seal the oil in, so keep that in mind, don't lose those. These do have a gasket on them, but it is best to replace it. They leak from here very commonly anyway, but it's usually not the gasket that leaks, it's the shaft, so if you can save the gasket, I mean, more power to you, right? Alright, so here's the back side, snap-out shaft. And as you can see, same business in there. Actually, you see one of these is well, it's not going to do it, but there it is. See these forks that move independently of each other. So sometimes I've seen guys that'll have they'll have an issue where, like, if they let off their throttle, the truck will idle high and it won't come down on its own, but if you just blip the throttle, it'll like idle up and then come back down to normal idle. That's just, it's usually something hanging up either with this right here, one of these springs is broken or it is binding, or on the outside here, your cam and your springs and shit just have a bunch of gunk in them and it's sticking. So I mean, there are plenty of other things that can also cause that problem, but I've seen that happen before, so if that happens, see if your thing is full of crap. Alright, let me get that other tap. Yeah. Just so I got another one over there too, so. We'll move this one out of the way for just a minute, or a few minutes, because we had to do the same thing with this one. But the neat thing is with this one, I'm not worried about it like being super clean inside and all, because this pump is not going to go back together ever. So the nut is like rusted off or something on one side. It's kind of weird. See that? It's just like missing a portion of it. Of course, I need 2 open-end wrenches and I've only got one with me. Neat. So there's your cam the way it's supposed to be. This one actually functions good. Cool. That means we've got a good sheet metal cover we can give him too, since his is all destroyed. I wonder if this one will come out without hitting that screw. I doubt it. Nope. Oh well. I know right about where to set it anyway. He can make a fine adjustment on his own if he wants to. I was just thinking, I remember somebody making a comment once about, oh, I'd never have this guy work on my injection pump. I'm like, dude, do you know how many of these things I've fixed? You know how many of these things I actually fix on a regular basis? Like, I really, I mean, I don't want to be mean, but if you're gonna make a comment like that coming from a position where you've never done it, but you want to talk bad about somebody that does it on a regular basis, come on, man. Really? So I just got to kind of laugh at that. All right, so a piece of gasket came off with this one, but that's not a problem. We'll just peel it off of here. The case still has an intact gasket. And I should mention that I'm doing this for this guy, this friend of mine, at no charge, because one, he is a friend and he takes care of me. He does a lot of stuff to help me, especially when I've been hurt and couldn't do anything, and you know, other times. But he helps me out a lot more than I help him, to be honest. And I kind of feel bad for seeing his truck sit there. It's been there for 10, 15 years, sitting in the bushes, and it just would like to help him get it back on the road. So all right, we're done with this one. Welcome back, friend. Okay. Still wet with brake cleaner. So if you're going to try to fix this, if you have an issue with it leaking out of the pump shaft here, or the throttle shaft rather, you want to take off this little snap ring here, and then your cam will come off. And if you look at it here, you can get the clocking right, because you have a center like groove there. You see it's maybe one spline off center from the groove here to the center line of this. So you need to know where to put it back together. So you take the snap ring off, and then there's an Allen in there, and you can get it from this side when it's like that. I'm going to take that out. Let me see if I can clean it up a little bit. Yeah, so that's what pinches the two halves together here on the shaft. Take that off, and then this whole assembly will come out, and there's some O-rings to replace there. So not a huge deal to do that. And that is one of the most common places these pumps leak oil, is out of the throttle shaft right here. So yeah, let's put this back together in a second here. What I'm going to do I'm going to give this thing every chance to seal. I'm going to use some copper coat on it. The thing I love about copper coat is it is friendly to the internals of everything. It doesn't hurt anything. So you can just, you don't have to worry about masking anything off or anything like that. You just spray it on and put the thing together. So stand it up. I need a little light here. Now, it would be nice if I could show you this, but I can't. This is one of those things like you'll have to see and do on your own, unfortunately. But I'm showing you enough here that when you do it, you're not going to be lost. Okay? So let's put our screws back in. And it is not on in there, and I'll show you in a minute, as soon as I get this all back together. Because you don't want the copper coat to sit too long before you secure it. Doesn't have to be gorilla tight. These are very shallow flathead screws, so they really can't take a lot of torque. That original gasket is one of those metallic types, so I mean, you saw it. So it doesn't really compress a lot anyway. Okay, so that's on. Let me show you this. See how it is not. Come on, you. I'm almost focused for a second. Damn it. It's like it focuses and then it's like, nope, I'm done. There we go. See, it's not. Ugh. It's not engaged. Okay, I can sit here and try to make it focus all day. So that is where you got to work with a screwdriver and try to manipulate it best you can. Because it absolutely has to be aligned or otherwise engaged. All right, so it's not wanting to come up, so we're gonna try to get at it. See if we can put some up pressure on it from the bottom. This is the drain, oil drain plug, meant for draining the oil from it before you return it for service. I don't know if you guys know this, but like in the military, when you pull off a component that is oiled, say an engine, you've got to completely drain the motor oil out of it, and you got to make sure there is zero coolant left in it. If there's any, the rebuilders will not accept it for service. It has to be completely clean. That's the same thing with differentials, transmissions, everything. So, okay. Now we can kind of push up on it from the bottom. Oh, cluttered work area. I hate it, but I'm the one that does it. Come on, turd. This is so stupid. Oh yeah, you can totally do it on this truck. It continues to have a really hard time doing it on the bench. Come on. Come on, man. It's like it doesn't want to move. It should. I mean, it's aligned. I think part of this is because the rack can't move because the hydraulic head is and shit is seized right now. So let's pull that. At least get the governor rod free. Jesus clip, which went flying but landed where thankfully I saw it. Push that governor rod out. No, of course not. Ooh. Damn. It came out unexpectedly. I cannot believe that went flying out separately and I found it. But I heard it when it hit the floor. Okay. So now the rack moves. Awesome. And the reason for turning it on its side like this, when you're on the bench, it's helpful because you got gravity helping you. When it's on the truck and it's mounted upright, that U-shaped linkage in here, it wants to naturally fall down a little bit. So you've got to get in there with a screwdriver and push up on it to assist when it's on the truck. Now this way, it should keep it fairly even. So. I mean, should and does is totally different, but here's it. I'm actually having a hard time with this that I did not expect. This is not the first time I've done this. Not by a long shot. It's just... I don't know. It's probably my payback for being a dick to somebody about something I don't remember. There it is. Alright. Maybe I'll be able to show you guys that. See that? That's seated. Alright? And it's still on the bottom pivot in there. Not that it's going to focus, because why would it? But, yeah, cool. So that's what you want. All right. So, oh, okay. That's that. Now we can put our idle screw back in. Now this is the idle screw that came off of this pump. And the setting for it is a good bit different than the one for the pump the throttle lever came off of. So what we're going to do is use the screw that came on the pump originally. Make sure this all works, which it does. I'm going to run this back in. Just snug, because these are very easy to break. Trust me, I've done it a few times. I've broken them. Okay, here's our original high idle screw, or fast idle screw, whatever you want to call it. Let's run it all the way down to its bottom. See, there's a threaded end. And then what we can do is go thread it in that way. And then just run the screw down. And usually they won't tighten up like that. If so, back it off a bit and then just hold your wrench so the nut can't tighten itself when you're tightening the threaded screw through it. And run it down like that. Say about 3/16 of an inch out is a good starting point. You don't want to go overboard. I mean, you can play it safe and run it down farther than this to keep it from idling up as far, and not idling, but revving that far. But then you're going to find out that you're going to want to run faster, and it's not going to allow it to. So, like you might rev out at 1900 RPMs, and you're not going to go anywhere fast that way. You're never even going to get into fourth gear. So honestly, better to have not quite enough in this case than too much. So moving on, we've got a cover plate we can put on. I mean, I guess we could clean that off a little, huh? It would help if I didn't drop it. Ooh, wire brush. This thing doesn't have to be real clean because it's just going on right back onto a oily multi-fuel that's been sitting around for who knows how many decades. Wrong wrench, dummy. It's a 3/8. Hey, you want to make sure when you tighten this that it doesn't go in and contact the shaft, so that's why you see me holding it with my fingers. Because when you tighten the screw, it wants to turn itself as well. So make sure it still works freely. Then where'd that throttle shaft go? I threw it somewhere. There it is. All right. Throttle shaft. Step side goes in towards the pump. So go all the way back like this, and you want to align the slots in this with the slot on this. Slide it on, tighten up the nuts. Tighten your nuts. Once again, I need two open ends, and I've got one. Oh, damn. I didn't even notice that. See the witness mark on there? So I was almost a spline off. Actually, it looks like you can't really. Well, either way is fine. You can use the witness mark, or you can use the slots in the one below. I think you get the point. Pick it up so it's flush. This is going to be a long video. I don't think I'm going to have you sit around for me pulling the hydraulic head, though. I've got plenty of videos on that. Probably going to end this one here in a couple of minutes. So I just kind of wanted to show you guys this with the throttle because I've never covered that. And I know it is kind of a common issue that they leak there and they get broken off. And you know, what good is a parts pump, or what good is a good pump that's got a broken throttle shaft and you don't know how to fix it? So all good. Yep, all I've got to do now is I got to do the boost pump seal and the hydraulic head. So not gonna bore you guys with that. I'm sure this video is long enough. Yeah, 50 minutes long. Damn. All right, thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate your patience. Please, if you have not already, like and subscribe, share the video, share the channel, man. You know, anything you do helps. Your likes actually really help. In comments too. Algorithms, man, algorithms. I don't do computers, I do this stuff, but it is what it is. So check out the links to our sponsors in the description below. If you would, please also consider supporting us on Patreon, where you will see everything early before it gets posted to YouTube, and there's other perks as well. So later, dudes. All right, so one final thing to mention here. When you're setting your normal idle, your low idle, this is your low idle screw. And if you look at your fuel lever here, let me see if I can give you a little more light. Much better. This is the full fuel position. That's where it should be when the truck is ready to start. That's where it should return to every time the truck shuts off. Now sometimes you'll find that your pump is stuck there, especially if the truck is sat for a while. Okay, that's not what you want. You want it right there. If it's only here when you take the shut-off cover off, chances are you're not getting the fuel it's supposed to be. You may see that the truck's hard to start, things like that. So with that said, when you have done that throttle assembly replacement that I showed, and you need to reset this, with your shut-off cover off, make sure that when you come back to your idle stop, it doesn't do that. Well, I mean, earlier it was going all the way back to there. So what you don't want is you don't want it to shut the truck off when you let off the pedal, right? You want it to come back to somewhere reasonable, which is, I guess that would be a reasonable idle. Yeah. So I was kind of got ahead of myself there. So if you go to full throttle, which is all the way back here, well, I mean, what I meant to say is I didn't think this all the way through before I started making this video. I hope you understand what I'm getting at here. I get ahead of myself a lot. You probably noticed that if you've been here for a while. So full throttle here goes to full throttle there. Great. So when we let off, it stays there, but it should, with the throttle return spring, pull it back to an idle level, which is, it will adjust itself when the governor in here is actually working. You're just kind of getting a preliminary look at where it goes. Because if it goes all the way off to there, it's going to shut the truck off when you let off the pedal, and it's not what you want. So anyway, just one more thing to kind of look at and check before you put it back on the truck. You are going to have to make your idle adjustments anyway, regardless. But you want to make sure that it's not, it's not sticking all the way at full throttle no matter what. So if you let it, push it back, it comes back to somewhere in the middle or in the lower 1/3 of the range is fine. Just if it's all the way off, it's going to shut off. Like I've said like 5 times now. So, yep, that's all, guys. I needed to show you that while I was thinking about it. I know, and I've said this before, some things I'm not the best at explaining. Hopefully you kind of get the idea of what I'm getting at with this right here. So, appreciate it. Later.